So just to recap, we've got into the communication strategy, which is the second appendix. We've revamped that into the communications and media plan, capturing everything that was in the original strategy and pulling it through to the plan and then updating it obviously with the communications moving forward correctly. That's about probably all I have to say on it, unless I've got any questions or comments. So the first document is the new one, the second document is the old one.
Comments, please?
Through years to you, I think the key change will be around the digital enablement and that world of changing social media and the likes and how we're going to engage in that. And secondly, it is very much around being proactive in terms of our media strategy as well, so promoting the district and getting those stories out there when we can, as well as telling good news stories and just general responses to council business.
Mr. Hobbs, and I will get Mr. Hobbs to actually report because you may all be aware, you will be aware that we sent him on a holiday to the Coffs Harbour for 3 days. Recognise that because I think we used the word an elite group of chief executives from New Zealand and Australia as part of this training program. Obviously, we'll talk about that in a moment before Mr. Harkness comes in. But just reading that report that you have given me, then it starts talking about the changes that will take place in local government, particularly in communications, and how that they expect by 2025, everybody will be wandering around with their digital phone, having stuff there, but 80% of those over 67 will still be handling the digital media. Does this policy reflect the change that you thought were getting talked about in Coffs Harbour?
The answer is yes, it's a good step in that direction.
Doesn't that seem to be, to me, quite as far as that out?
No, it's not. And I guess again it comes back to what our software and our platforms, our information system platforms actually allow us to do at this stage, and that's another conversation for another day. But if I use the analogy of the banks, and you think perhaps 5 years ago, most of your 10 years ago, banking was done over a counter with a personal interface. Now, the majority is probably online and not really visit the bank, and that's where the world's moving to. It's being able to provide all that sort of remote accessibility and service levels for our citizens outside of this building, and that's where we need to get to, no doubt. So this document certainly is heading in that direction, but it's based on what we have capability for at the moment.
Because I was interested in, if this paper then was talking about the changes, and it then started talking about how our ratepayers and our residents were going to become more demanding and more impatient because they want that information now and to get out, so they're out, and I think they're finding that here. There were people saying, hey, you hadn't consulted, you hadn't told, and we tried. I'd like to see this paper making quite certain that we are moving faster into that area than,
Yeah, thank you, Richard. And look, we don't disagree. I mean, at the end of the day, I think a lot of where we need to get to in terms of our relationship with our citizens, with our ratepayers, is around actually communicating ahead of time, so letting them know what's going on through apps or whatever it might be on mobile phones or websites, where they get information about. I mean, we've already got information about roads and things like that, and where roadworks are and that sort of thing. But how many people go looking for it? It would be fantastic to be able to actually have that information pop up on your phone. We've had conversations in here in the past around animal control, having apps or the chips where that actually identifies where a dog is when it's out roaming for an owner, rather than us ringing for the pound saying we'll pick up the dog. They go and find it themselves. All that sort of technology is available to us, and that's where we want to get to. So we're actually providing a far greater level of service and information to our ratepayers and our citizens ahead of time. The reality is we don't have the systems to allow us to do that at this stage.
I guess that one of the things, and again, like to talk about, because at the mayoral forum, you know, I think I reported last time, we were talking about what could we be doing to have better uptake of our fibre here, and looking at a digital hub and that there. Will this sort of thing allow us for apps and do things, you know?
Yeah,
So I have to say that I keep getting the feeling that when I read this and we're marking time rather than getting up. Now, does that mean we have to, when we do annual plan, we have to look at budget? Or do we sort of say, hey, hang on, we're not too sure?
yeah, no, certainly in terms of the advice we received today around our information systems, which is really what the crux of the matter here, is that we know we've got a system that's that we've added onto. It's got, again, using another analogy, consider a house, you build a house on a foundation, it's a certain size to suit the family at that time, and then as new technology arrives and new opportunities arrive, you build rooms onto it, you do all sorts of things. Eventually, though, that building foundation isn't fit for purpose, it won't handle what you want to add to it. We're not far away from that position. We need to look at our IT, our open information system, at some point in terms of a major overhaul. The advice we've had, though, out of the experts is that that's probably another 2 years away, because at the moment, while the cloud technology is certainly the way to go, there is still some hesitancy and concern around where the security, I guess, and the reliability of the cloud. So the experts are telling us that we need to be positioning ourselves for that sort of change probably in about 2 years. So as I said, it's a conversation for another day. It'll be a whole lot of work we need to do behind the scenes to then come to council with a proposal. So, Your Worship, just an answer, picking up on your query around this document. I don't believe it's made. I think there's a very, very clear intent here that we want to get to that point. But reality is, we would need to work our way there slowly.
I'm not too sure that I go along with Reed strongly. I think if we as governors have to say, hey, that maybe I'm the only one that sort of says, hey, we've got to get that out there, we've got to move with it, we can't afford to wait.
Yeah, well, it's not to say we're not doing anything. We are. I mean, if you look at what Mrs. Fabre's done in communications already in terms of our work on Twitter, on internet, on Facebook and so on, we've been very proactive, and there's a lot of good stuff going out there. Bearing in mind we've only got 2 in our communications team as well, it's another consideration, but and we're not suggesting we need more, but at the end of the day that does obviously limit you to a degree in terms of what you do, but we're certainly moving, I think, a long way down the track from where we have been.
And through Your Worship, it's probably fair comment to say that while digital technology is moving ahead, and there's no doubt about that, we've also got a community that at the moment is probably slightly on the lower end of picking up that technology, so we do probably need to remind about the fact that we'll be running kind of old school and new school at the same time for an interim period until that sort of uptake takes. I mean, I've looked at looking at one of the new features of the website is using this, which is great. It's quite a simplified feature, and we will be looking into using it for things like being sent to emailing us and that sort of thing. But I kind of question whether In Touch, for instance, could be done through the e-newsletter. I'm probably not there at that stage yet, but obviously something to look to in the future. So,
other councillors' comments in terms of the value of communications, getting our story out. Councillor Lee.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter what system you buy, when you buy it, it's already out of date. So you just do the best you can with you can, because when you look over the last even 5 years, technology has progressed so fast that it's too hard to keep up. But you've got to do the best that you can at the time that you can. So
through you, which is just a response to that, one of the things that is really heartening is that when you look at all the major system providers, software providers around the world, and not just in local government, but just generally providing the services, they're now working with systems that are actually interconnected. In the past, if you went with Civica, for argument's sake, or whoever it be, you pretty much then had to buy those systems as they build apps for them or whatever. Nowadays, they're basically saying, hey, we'll provide you with a base operating system, and you can go to any provider you want to that provides the service you want, and it's just a seamless plug-in, basically, which is really positive.
Yeah, you was right. I think the communications team, on the whole, has have done a good job, and I think that I don't think our residents and ratepayers can complain about lack of communications on the whole. There's been, in my opinion, there's been a couple of areas that haven't been handled quite as well as I personally would have liked. But I think that one of the areas that I think that's, and I'm not too sure whether it's in this paper, is the complaint that we often get from ratepayers and residents about, well, when was this decision made? You know, for instance, we'll take a little later on in the agenda, T-rail pools or the pools fees cut. Seems to come as quite a surprise to a number of people that decisions have been made by council, and when was there an opportunity to comment on those? So I don't think we're quite getting the message through to our residents and ratepayers about their ability to make submissions at certain stages. You would think they would. We all assume there's plenty of opportunities like advertisements and papers and newspapers and so forth, but it seems to be an area that constantly, as a councillor, I'm getting told, well, when was this decision made? Or how, and so people who seem to be interested in the community don't understand yet. There is always an ability to comment on or object to proposals and so forth. I wonder whether that's a particular area that we should be concentrating on. I don't know the answer.
Your worship, possibly social media is the way to go. It's quite big in our community. In the past, I think Madam Yaga, District Council and Hamilton City Council was last annual plan of what they also they took formal submissions through social media. I can look into how successful that was. For us and possibly introduce that sort of thing. Probably would increase general engagement and possibly just awareness. More than anything, even if people go back to the original system of electronic submission. Probably the best way.
Thank you, which we, just to back up Ms. Fabre's comment around engagement, and it's the thing that I think every council is battling with, and various councils are doing different things. The Facebook example is one. The Western Bay Plenty District Council actually took councillors around and parked them on the street for periods and engaged with clients on the street corners. You got ratepayers on the street corners and so on. So there's a whole lot of different ways of doing it. It's probably something we do need to think about is how we do engage with our community.
Yes. It's also a place where we talk fees and charges in which we as councillors have passed and probably haven't always realised that this is what they've done. And I would think lawn clippings would be one thing in which we passed without all of that. Councillor Lee, Councillor Pearl.
Yeah, from a personal point of view, I think our communication out to the ratepayers in the public is very good, but it's only when it affects you that then people start to engage. Like, they may read it, look at it, because it's not affecting them, they're not worried about it until it actually affects them, and then they think, oh, well, what's going on? Why isn't that happening? And it's exactly the same with when they vote. They're not engaging, or we can't force them to vote. We can't force them to, take a bit of interest in the rest of the community. That's up to them. All we can do is put that information out there for them and let them go for it.
Right, thank you. Very good, Councillor Bill.
I was just going to say one thing that I think, so we've got the channels that we can use for various sorts of messages and for the audiences, but we haven't got to, and that's probably a little bit of what you guys said, is just what information you can need and get some research on what information they need and working with the importance with that so that we know what they want to know, because that's, I think we all feel that sometimes there'll be something reactive in the paper or whatever, and it's something that we could have anticipated and got the information out there first.
Through your worship, what we do is a lot of the articles and in touch, for instance, and some of the media statements, stuff, the advertisement stuff that we do. We actually go through the CSOs down in the front counter and ask them what, because see with the front line, some of the stuff you pick up on social media, like